asking you questions.
Sorry, you're right, Marshall.
You're right.
Yeah. Miss Morgan doesn't know what she's talking about. This is the Marshall Show, and you get to ask me whatever's on your mind.
Right.
Dangerous.
Like, what have you been thinking about lately?
I wrote some questions on the board.
Oh, good.
So, there we go. So at the end of the book, Jesus flew away. So how did he fly away?
Very good question. That's a big question. Is that where you want to start?
Yeah.
How did Jesus fly away? Do you think you have an answer, Mila?
Yeah.
You want to try?
Angel?
Angel? Maybe. I don't know if it's anything about an angel. So we're talking about after he rose from the dead, he was with his friends for, do you remember about how long it was?
I don't think so.
It was 40 days he was hanging out.
40 days?
That's right. It's like a month and some change.
That's the amount of years that our old mama is.
Yes.
That is true.
Mama just turned 40.
Yep.
That's awesome. So he was hanging out for 40 young days. And it says that Jesus was with his disciples. And all it says is that he was raised into the clouds and he disappeared. So the way that the Bible tells it is the best way that the disciples knew to talk about it. So sometimes we see things that are so amazing, we don't even know how to describe it. And they did their best with their own words to describe it. And so some of them may have thought that he just flew away. Others may have thought he just like lifted up into the sky and slowly disappeared. But I think the cool part is that once Jesus rose from the dead, he could do anything. So he could just move around. He could go between walls. He was almost like a ghost, but he wasn't a ghost because he still had a body.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Did that answer your question?
Probably.
Okay, good.
We definitely have to be right there to put it.
Do you feel like there's still lots of other questions you have about that?
Well, not about that exact scene, but maybe. But I got like a million questions about them. I only have 3 this time.
Okay.
Second one. How did God survive without anything in the beginning of the Bible?
That's a big question.
That's a biggie. Mm-hmm.
How did God survive without eating anything in the beginning?
I think he said without anything, just like without anything.
Without eating or without anything?
Well, like anything in like eating and other things.
Yeah, that's a good one. So before God created, we just say that God was. That in the beginning there was God, right? That's kind of what you're saying. But what did God do and what did God have and what did God eat? Those are really good questions to ask. And the truth is, I don't really know that answer. But whatever God was doing must have been pretty wonderful, even if we can't even imagine what that would have been. So God is so big and so small at the same time. I think God was still really happy before God created all the stuff that we see today.
Oh. When I press this, that's cool. Ding.
The fishing pole or the answer?
Both.
Awesome. Do you have another million questions?
Come get the fish, Marshall.
Good gracious.
the third one, which is almost the last one I came up with.
Unless you think of more.
Where did God come from?
Ooh. I really like the way that one of the Gospels talks about that. Do you know what the Gospels are? Have you heard of that before?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, you know, the Bible is a collection of many books. So when we open up our Bibles, it looks like one book, but it's a collection of 66 books that each have a name.
I didn't know there were 66, but I knew that they were separate books.
That's right. And the Gospels, there are 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And John begins with these words: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning.
Yeah, but that was 4.
4?
That's 4 questions.
Oh, well, that was kind of 3. But back to your question.
1, 2, 3.
What do you think, Marshall?
I think he just somehow made himself.
That's a really fun way to think about it.
Now it's 5.
He can ask as many questions as he wants. So, how did God make God's self? That's a really good question. And I don't think that God would say that God made God's self. Maybe God was, is, and always will be. God has always been. So God's always been around. So God didn't need to make himself because God's always been there. Like a circle.
That circle part makes me understand better.
Yes. Awesome.
That makes 1, 2, 3, 1.
Are you counting his questions?
4,
She's going to start to
5,
charge you
6,
after the 4th
7.
question.
You got 7.
Yeah. Do you have
Did you
have
think
any
of
more
more?
questions?
While we were talking?
I don't think that was 7.
It's okay.
Got 6 now. I mean, you got this now because you did those.
All right, Marshall, how you doing?
Good.
Is there anything else on your mind?
I think so. I just don't quite know what it is yet.
No. Okay. That sounds pretty deep. Well, what have you been reading about lately?
Daddy! What's that?
What's the last book you read?
That's Daddy! Gosh. Can't remember.
Can't remember.
That's okay.
It must have been a pretty memorable book.
What's your favorite Bible story? No pressure, man.
Mila, do you have any questions?
Any questions about Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Marshall has an answer. Is it okay?
I do.
Okay, ask Marshall a question.
What question?
Do you have a question? Ask him.
Ask him any question about Jesus.
Or the Bible.
What question about Jesus?
What's your question?
When he was...
Any questions about his boo-boos or anything you've read?
Yeah, the boo-boo, the boo-boo.
All right, well, what's your question about him?
The circus got the boo-boos on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he put him in a big rock, and Mary was going and got him out, and Boo Boo was gone. I said, And then on the other page, he was run so fast. And that's mine.
Does that sound familiar? You know what story she's telling?
Maybe.
Where the soldiers gave Jesus boo-boos and they hid him behind the big rock, and Mary was coming to see him, and then
Yeah, the one in Jesus' book, Daddy.
Jesus
Now
story.
remember 100%. That is our book.
So what was yours? You can tell them.
Oh, wait.
Did you forget again?
He like asked me what was my favorite part of the Bible.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of the Bible is when that guy got ate by a fish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do you remember his name?
I heard you talk to your mommy something, but I heard you and when you was talking in the ear.
Yeah.
That's what it.
Let's hear why that's so special to Marshall.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Marshall, why do you think that's your favorite story? What is it you like so much about it?
Because it was funny when he got ate by a big fish, because like that was unexpected and interesting.
Yeah.
Funny
It was
because
unexpected.
and okay, and think of other ways to explain it.
Uh-huh. What was he? Why did he get swallowed up by the fish? Do you remember?
Mommy. Because he didn't go where God wanted him to go.
Yeah, he was kind of scared, right?
Okay. If I don't want to miss it.
Yeah. The strange thing about that story is he was scared.
I'm gonna get some water, okay? Just
that
wait.
Sounds good. We'll wait. We'll be right here.
Okay. That's the animation.
Okay, Mila's gonna go get some water. But the story about that with Jonah and the whale or the fish or whatever it was that swallowed him up is that he was scared to go to the Ninevites because they weren't very nice to people like Jonah. But when he told them what God had warned them about, what happened? Did you hear that part of the story?
Yeah, but I think I forgot it.
Well, when he went there, God told Jonah to go to Nineveh to tell them that they needed to change things up. But Jonah didn't want to go because the Ninevites weren't really friends with Jonah's family. So then eventually, you know how the story goes, Jonah runs away because he doesn't want to go to Nineveh because he's scared of the Ninevites. Then he gets swallowed up. But then after, he gets spit out 3 days later, he decides he might as well go. And he tells them to get their act together to make some changes. And guess what they did?
They did it.
That's right. They changed things up. But it's got a very strange ending to that story. It gets even more twisted. Jonah sees that these people changed things and listened to what God told him to say, and he gets upset about it. Mila fell down.
Oh gosh. Okay. This is ridiculous.
So Jonah gets upset because the people changed, and he didn't want to see the people change. He wanted to see them get destroyed. That doesn't sound very nice, does it?
Snowman!
Oh gosh.
Anyway, so I remember learning about that when I was in college. And the lesson for me when I learned back then was that sometimes there are people who are hard to love. And that story is about loving people who are hard to love.
Do you have a friend at school?
Like sometimes it's hard to be nice to bullies, especially when they're acting like bullies.
Someone in my school last year named Alan, and it's kind of Hard to love because he always follows me around even when I don't want him to.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and God really wants us to love everyone, even when they're hard to love. And you know what I learned? Sometimes I'm hard to love.
You are?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I'm falling down.
All right, Marshall. Well, do you have any more questions tonight?
So.
Okay. How about you come up with some more and we'll do this again next week?
Okay. One more.
Okay, Mila's got one more.
What's your question, baby?
Okay. My question is, what when Jesus was in bed and he was pointing doing this?
Oh, yeah. In the storybook, after Jesus rose from the dead and he wipes his mouth at the table. Do you remember that part? His friends are scared.
Yeah, when he ate a fish.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one when he was in and he was?
What? I don't remember that part. Do you remember why he ate something? Why he had to eat something?
What was in the fish's mouth? The yucky things in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
His teeth?
Maybe it's the grass inside.
Because Jesus' friends thought he was a ghost. And so to prove he wasn't a ghost, he ate something to show them that it was his real body that rose from the dead.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was, but I don't remember fully.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to remember all these things, isn't it?
Mommy, I have to
Yeah.
jump
That's
over
why it's
there.
important to keep talking about these stories, because I think they're interesting, like you said, and they're also pretty important. Mila's having an adventure on the couch over here.
Marshall, you're the best. We love you.
Love you, Marshall.
Love you too.
Hey.